welcome back to Japan, where I'm going to be giving you my reaction and review to Routine by Siren. And as always, I've just done the reaction, I'm about to give you the review. If you want to watch that reaction, pause this video, click the little link in the description below. It'll open a separate YouTube player, which will give you the reaction part. We have to do things this way now. You can watch the song along with me if you want to, and see my first reaction to it before I give you the review right now, or just watch the song again. Are you ready? Are you ready? Because here comes the review. Don't say I didn't warn you. Alright, so this one, I really like this. Now, obviously, at this point, I've heard so much of Silent Siren's material. I immediately recognised the riff and, to a certain degree, the chorus from this song, and I can't specifically say, I mean, I've been around so much of their material now that I could have accidentally heard this. I try not to spoiler any songs for myself, but I think partly from when I went to that Tenkai Apin and I recorded that little skit in a Tenkai Apin, actually, since we have restarted the channel, I've got to re-upload that, haven't I? I probably should. Anyway, but since I did that, as a result, I think I might have heard it there. Or it's one of those songs that it could have been on radio and I could have just heard it ambiently. But I did kind of definitely recognize at least the riff at the beginning. But this was one of those songs where just immediately the feeling came across that it was a Silent Siren song in so many ways, and yet it oozed a lot of extra qualities that were really interesting. And I think a lot of this review is going to be about balancing those two things, which things are kind of your normal Silent Siren things, you know, for better or for worse, whatever you like, and which were the things that really made this one stand apart. And it did have some things that really elevated it. Now, first of all, talking about the riff, I mentioned this during the reaction. I think this is a big thing. The riff, you think about so many riffs, it's kind of like the same thing going round and round and round and round. That's kind of the riff. It's kind of like a catchy loop. This riff feels more like a melody. It kind of goes from one place to another. It's not about repetition. And I really liked that. The riff, I think that's why it was so recognizable when I heard it. I was like, wait a second, I know this. That riff is really good. It's kind of like a little miniature solo of its own, a little miniature melodic solo of its own, and it loops back round nicely, but it isn't just the same thing going round and round. So anyway, the riff was really great. And then it drops into that verse. And okay, so the verse is doing what we've probably heard in a million other songs, Silent Siren included, where you go sort of quiet, you get the little muted chugging guitars, and then the drums go a little bit more shuffly as well. Everything sort of sounds like it's rumbling along, but it really worked nicely here. Just the whole way it was mixed and produced, it sounded really good. It sounded like something that was sort of building up for sort of an explosion in the chorus. And that worked really well. Then you had a pre-chorus, which was that sort of loud and stabby, but, you know, it went louder, but then the beat became more sort of da-da-da off on, I think it was like guitar, vocal, call and answer was really nicely done. So again, the sort of quieter bit had been replaced by volume, but now the rhythm had been sort of held back on, and just all those things were helping build you up into the chorus. So you had a great run up to the chorus with like a really good, you know, intro riff with a really good verse, a great pre-chorus, and, you know, all the drama building up. And then when the chorus comes in, okay, on many levels, it is the most Silent Siren chorus. I mean, it fits many of the stereotypes. It's got their kick hat, snare hat beat that they always do, but done sort of very well, not always, but very often doing choruses, certainly for the singles. But here it was very quick and it kind of worked. It kind of had a real, that sort of sped up version of their usual disco shuffle chorus beat, worked really nicely here because it's sort of, it kind of, it was almost like a sort of freight train sound, you know, sort of barreling along. It felt really, in line with everything that was going on. The synthesizer bit that was being played behind was really nice in that, again, simple, just sort of like a little bit of a repeating riff, a little bit of a repeating lick there, but it was nice and high pitched and it was giving that sort of buzzing sort of so I can't do the keyboard sound with my voice. Of all the instruments I can do, that's the one I seem to have failed at, the synthetic one. But it kind of had this sort of sound like it was buzzing around and building up tension, which otherwise it would just been a sort of strummed guitar a chorus. It wouldn't have had that sort of same sort of tension, everything built up over the top. So that worked really nice. But the thing that really laid it, you know, sort of into a territory of its own was actually, although it might not be the most catchy chorus melody ever, the actual melody that was used was really engaging. I mentioned it starts with a fairly simple sort of sung-along chorus, but then you get that bit where it falls off the rhythm and goes into little bits of a free, you know, goes around in freeze. It's the funny thing, it's not catchy enough that straight off the top of my head I can just sing it back to you, and yet in my head I can really I remember more the feeling of how engaging it was, just by the way it was sort of breaking up the melody, and that the melody was, it was clever in a sort of a way that's it's that Silent Siren thing, isn't it? It's engagingly simple enough to be easy to listen to and easy to follow, and yet it had that sort of detail and cleverness that it wasn't just a sort of a lazy, irritating, earwormy chorus. It was actually a good quality, interestingly written chorus with little rhythmic trickery to it, I guess you could say, simple rhythmic trickery. So that whole feeling was really just, we got around from intro, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and the whole thing felt really complete, like it just worked, it functioned, everything felt really good. So like I say, just nothing felt like it was a letdown in this. And so we get around to the bridge, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want a good bridge, what are we going to get? Okay, this is where the hashtag no bias thing is going to really have to be pushed in here, because I know that I'm the sort of person who, I like my sung bridges, I like my interesting melodic bridges. I usually go against solos as being, not necessarily bad, but often just the easiest way out, just the sort of easiest way to phone in a bridge that just kind of works, isn't going to offend anyone. So pretty a bunch of people are going to jump down my throat about saying that I really loved this bridge, but the reason I loved it was just because I think, apart from the fact that Ukraine had been playing a synthesizer throughout and there'd been no piano up until this point, just suddenly going for a piano bridge really worked. It felt right. It also sort of cocked up your ears because it was just suddenly, piano's coming, just a new sound's coming from nowhere. Again, this is why I say that bands who have keyboard players, and one of the reasons why I think the sounds that Ukraine picks are so fantastically picked so much of the time, she chooses really good sounds for them, assuming it's her who chooses, rather than the writer or producer. It's probably a mixer, actually. But the choice to go for that piano sound is something that's one of the reasons why a keyboard player is so useful for a band, because they have at the push of the button the ability to become basically a musician of a different instrument. They can just basically go, now I'm playing this instrument. And I know, obviously, if a keyboard player says, now I'm playing electric guitar, it's not going to sound exactly the same as electric guitar, but it's the fact that they can just pull out new sounds from anywhere. And switching from something which had been a rock song with synthesizer to suddenly you've got this sort of sharp, playful piano sound. It was a really playful solo. It was beautifully played. A lot of the time, Ukraine's very much in the background of the songs. She plays a supporting element, giving colour to the songs, and that's great. I mean, that's kind of what a keyboard does a lot of the time. But sometimes when she steps up to the front, you see this real air of quality in what she does. And I like the fact that with so many of the musicians in really good bands, and this kind of counts for all the members of Silent Siren actually as well, usually they play, relatively reserved, and they just know when to push forwards. I remember there was that sort of, I can never remember the way you pronounce it in Japanese, but the Silent Siren song where the name basically translates as like girls' school war or something. And it's got the really cool video of the two girls who are basically having this over-the-top battle in the middle of a classroom. That had that fantastic, Hammond organ, electric organ, keyboard riff run thing that Ukraine was doing. And I remember that bit just stands out so much because just when that happens, it's just so perfect. And that's kind of how this solo felt. Okay, it's not as immediately recognizable because that was like a lick, it was a loop. Whereas here, this was more of a solo. But it was just immediately came and it was like, that sounds great. That sounds perfect. That's the perfect choice to put in there. And then when obviously Sue comes in and supports that with a guitar solo, and you've got the whole piano guitar thing working brilliantly together. And again, fantastic credit. You wouldn't think of this, but it should be mentioned. The fact that that worked and balanced so well. We also have to credit the people who did the mixing and producing on this. Brilliant job. Like I say, it just sort of elevated. It just sounded brilliant. It sounded so fleshed out for something which was effectively a solo. Just the choice of having a piano solo, brilliant anyway. There's not enough piano solos in the world. Let's just be clear about that. Piano solos are fantastic. And then having a guitar solo, which was equally fantastic alongside it. Both of them not so much showy as they were just melodic. Those melodic solos, I love them. And both of them building up together, elevating, pushing the song in the direction. It did all the things you want from a solo. It had an interesting tone to it, and it elevated the arrangement. It moved the arrangement along and pushed you into like the end of a song, the last chorus and everything. And just the whole song felt so complete. So, if I were to be honest, one of my favourite Silent Siren songs up until this point, as you guys might have known from my rather gushing review of it, was Lucky Girl. I think Lucky Girl was just an amazing pop song. Is it my favourite song by them? I don't know. I'm going to have to eventually sit down and make a list. I think it would be very high on my list. I can't say necessarily if it would be number one. But I love that song because to me, it's just like such a perfect pop song. This one, now, the reason I mention that is because there's a comparison to be made here. This song on so many levels is absolutely perfect. I really like what I'm hearing here. So when I say, would I listen to this again? In a strange way, I think I would be more inclined to listen to Lucky Girl again than this. But I would definitely come back and listen to this. I'm looking forward to listening to this again. But I think it's worth mentioning because I so often give that example of, would I come back to a song again? And I do often point out there's many factors that go into that. And one of them is how good a song is. This doesn't necessarily mean that you remember it. Catchiness isn't necessarily remembering the best song, but just the song that is most able to cement itself in your memory. So, when I think of Lucky Girl, that's a song that it keeps on coming back to me because it's so catchy. You just think, hey, I want a catchy pop song. Bam, there it is. With this one, it doesn't stick in my head as being quite as catchy. So for that reason alone, I would be probably less likely to come back to it. But certainly it's going to stick in my head just as being a really high quality pop rock song. So I think I'm going to definitely come back and listen to this more again. But I think it's mainly going to be because of consciously thinking, hey, that song was really good, rather than it being stuck in my head. Oh, I'm being phoned. Hello. So off the back of that phone call, I've had to go for a little bit of a walk. But there's no reason not to finish the review now, is it? So anyway, just to conclude what I was saying on that one, therefore, I think this is a song that really has, it has an element of like a real quality that makes it prime for re-listening, but I don't think makes it so much the radio-friendly hit that I unfortunately think it should be, because it is, it's definitely got that quality that makes for a rewarding listen. However, like I say, I'm pretty sure I did hear it on the radio, although if I heard it on the radio in Tenkai Ipin, that doesn't really count for much considering they are basically like business partners with Silent Siren. So anyway, good stuff. Really enjoyed it. As always though, get in the comments, tell us what you think, whether you know the band or not, whether you like the song or not. Get in there, tell us what you think about the song. I'd be really interested to know guys' opinions on this one. I imagine that some people would probably even say this was their favourite song of theirs, because just to me it sounded like it had a sort of a quality that would really appeal to a lot of rock fans as well as the sort of more pop inclined fans who I think usually listen to the band. So like I say, really interested to see what you guys think about this one as always, and obviously if you want to follow more of the discussions, then everyone is usually on all the other social medias linked in the description below, like our Reddit, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. And obviously big thank you to our patrons as always, the Patreon people who keep the channel going. This is where I usually point to all the things in the studio, however now I'm not in the studio, so thank you for keeping me alive, I guess. And so on top of that, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for making it through to the end of this video, because we had to battle through to the end of this one, didn't we? And until I see you hopefully very soon in Japan for the next one, for now, ciao ciao.